Hello and welcome to Movie Night. And today we're discussing the film Special Correspondents from 2016. It's available on Netflix, and it's directed by and written by Ricky Gervais and starring Ricky Gervais, but it also is based on a French film of the same name from a few years previously. It's a remake of that film. So Odysseus recommended this film to us, although I think we'd seen it before. So what were your thoughts, Odysseus?
Um, well, I think that it's a really excellent film for me. I think that it's very funny. There's lots of great jokes. I think that all of the characters are like just really bang on the money, pretty much. You've got the Frank Bonneville guy who's sort of the classic like Americans sort of supposed cool guy, but you know he just he plays as like classic sort of core character. I think Ricky Gervais's guy is really funny. The guy that's who's sort of kind of successful but kind of not. Like his wife obviously mocks him, and says he's not good enough. The two people in the cafe are two of fantastic characters. They're absolutely hilarious. And also Ricky, the guy that's like Ricky Gervais's wife, is the sort of classic just bitch wife basically who uh, cheats on him and just like obviously profits off the whole thing. And just she plays that role really well. And also the guy that Ricky Gervais eventually gets with is like I just think it's really well put together. It's a great plot. It's very funny and it's very well made.
And how about you, Ed?
I think I have a weird relationship with like Ricky Gervais films because I think he's funny, but every film I'm in, it's not that I don't like it. It's just it has a weird like I don't know how to describe it. It has a weird sort of like he doesn't really seem like the kind of person who should be like the main character in a film, if that makes sense. And he doesn't really seem like uh he's that good at like writing films because it's quite different to writing like a TV show. Um, in the sense that I just feel like the pacing was a little bit all over the place. It wasn't very. It's very hard to describe what I mean, but it's just like it feels to me like a weird, like long episode of a TV show he would make, more than like a film to me. That said, I did find it quite funny. uh, his character is pretty funny. I don't know if either of you thought this, but originally I thought that it was going to be like a low budget type thing where they were just, in the apartment in New York and they weren't actually going to another country. So I was actually quite surprised when they actually did go. Was it
Yeah,
to
you see, I
Syria
do.
or Siberia?
Sorry,
Where did they go again? It was Siberia?
Ecuador.
Ecuador, that was it. My
That's
bad.
very similar.
You're close enough. All them foreign countries. Oh.
I do. I think that I would agree with you in a sense on the pace. I think that if this film is just half an hour longer, and that half an hour is spent in Ecuador, it would have made it for a better movie. Because I kind of think if you're going to go to like do all that stuff anyway, you might
Yeah.
as well flush it out a bit more. Um, so yeah,
It felt
that's the
like
one thing.
it felt like they meandered in New York for a bit, and then they were in Ecuador for like 2 minutes, and then the film sort of
Mm,
ended. I don't know. It was strange. It was not something to me. It's not particularly like memorable of a film. Like it was funny, but I wouldn't really be inclined to watch it again were it not for doing this review because I saw it when it came out and I actually completely forgot about it until Ody mentioned it again. Um, yeah, you're right though about the wife. She was horrible in the best way possible.
mm,
Yeah, I'm a bit more like the thing. I didn't see it for a little bit either, actually myself. But the thing I thought was I just didn't feel like I was laughing that much during the film. Like I can't really remember like that many funny moments in it, like in terms of like actually bits where I was laughing. But equally, I think I felt like it's a solid plot and the characters were quite solid. It was just a case really. I just didn't like laugh enough times really to like make me want to rewatch it. Is what was my thoughts, but.
I have to say, can't relate on the not laughing bit. I think that most of the laughs come from those two characters who run the cafe or the bar or whatever it is. Like the amount of things they say, and like the scene where she's crying, like she's watching the woman sing "Give a Dollar for a Hero," and the woman's crying like, I'm going to give $1. And then they're obviously sat next to them because she's just so like, you know, not quite there. And then that bit at the end where she's like, oh, I know that you got I know that you got kidnapped. And Ricky's like, yeah, no, we actually did get kidnapped. And then she winks at them like, I know. And it's like the thing, I don't know, I just find that whole sort of dopey comedy, it's almost like Nile off the In-Betweeners. It just really works for me. I think it's very funny personally.
Yeah. Well,
Mm.
I think I do agree with what Ed was saying about like Ricky Gervais's films being not as good as his like TV shows in terms of like it feels a bit like too long a format almost. Like I've seen The Invention of Lying, which is another film that he wrote and directed that is a concept but just doesn't have enough like funny jokes to sustain the entire film. Which is odd.
Yeah.
He has written like longer, you know, like The Office altogether is longer than like this individual film, and it's funnier for the whole time. But like I think it's more like the individual splits of the half an
Yeah,
hour.
it's different pacing of a TV show.
Exactly. Yeah.
I don't know. It feels like he just tries to make a longer episode of the TV show. It felt like that way with the Office film, the follow-up Office film. What was it
Yeah.
called?
Yes.
David Brent.
Yeah. David Laugh.
Like it was funny, but it just kind of felt like could have been a special or like a longer episode of The Office, perhaps.
Yeah. Well, and of course with this, he already because it's a remake of a French film. He already has the basic outline of the story. Like,
Yeah,
he's not making that up himself. So
I didn't know that. I was straight. So
and
is
this,
this was it set in Paris or something?
it's just on the Wikipedia, not Wikipedia, yeah, the IMDb page. The French film is called Envoyé Très Spéciaux. It
Hmm.
just says, I think, yeah, no, it says France mobilizes to gain the release of two kidnapped journalists in Iraq, but only the victims know the crime has been faked. So I guess it's moved to Iraq rather than Ecuador. But other than that, I think it's a similar story.
You see, the thing is, I would question, like, because, I mean, I guess there's different disagreement between the two of you, because Ed says that it is, like, have got quite a few laughs and Albert less so. And I think that definitely all of the characters, the main characters, are introduced well enough. They're brought in, like, all of that's there. So I don't see how it's a fair criticism to say that he doesn't do the film that well, because I kind of think all the aspects of the film. I'd say there's like I say, the lack of half an hour to just sort of fully develop in Ecuador is probably a fair point. But other than that, I think everything you'd want from the film is there. So I disagree with the criticism that it's
It's
not
hard to
like he
describe
doesn't get the
what I
film right.
mean. I'm very not good at explaining it. It's just like I just feel like it is mainly in the pacing. I feel like it just makes it feel like, but I guess in the presentation as well, it's mostly flat shots of just people talking and not much visual storytelling. It's just people talking is basically the plot, which again is fine. It doesn't have to be like a Scorsese film or something, but it would just be I don't know. It would just be a bit more interesting if they tried a bit more to make it like a film. That's the biggest thing I think that makes it feel like just a TV special or something.
Yeah, I think my criticisms are less in the like filmmaking aspect and more of just I just wasn't laughing as much as like in an episode of The Office or Extras or anything like that, or I would get like a good solid amount of laughs throughout the episode where like proportionately I don't remember laughing that many times. But equally, I wasn't like hating the experience. Like I found the experience to be perfectly like solid. But equally, like I felt like a lot of times that the plot's just like we're just getting through the plot rather than like the plot being a reason that it's funny. If you
Yeah,
understand, like in a good comedy, you should like the plot in itself should be providing the jokes. Like in something like Hot Fuzz or something, like you don't just the plot doesn't stop to make jokes. Like the jokes flow as part of the plot. Whereas in this, it felt like we're doing the plot. Here's a joke. Like we're doing the plot. Here's a joke.
that's so true. That is like that's when it's like just not a good comedy film because the gags, quote unquote, is just like completely separate from the actual
Yeah.
film part. It reminds me of Ghostbusters, the new
But I don't
one.
think that's fair though, because but I don't think that's fair though to say the gags are separate because like But the first part, all of the gags are to do with, well, I don't like the word gags. All of the jokes are to do with the people that are helping them in the bar, and like, will they get caught or not? And just all of they're basically like trying to get these two people who are like quite ditzy to like pull off a plot, and the joke is like how many things they just weirdly don't understand. And then
That's
also
fair.
there's sort of jokes in Ecuador that are to do with like their kidnapping. I think that it is all like attached and together.
Yeah, that's fair. That's fair. I suppose it's just like the rest of it is. There's a lot of points where it's just like stopping to make a joke that has nothing to do with much else. I was gonna say as well, it's quite different to. I think Ricky Gervais does really good, like basically cringe comedy, which I
Yeah.
guess most people associate with British comedy. Just like feeling uncomfortable, basically. Like The Office was obviously famous for that. This didn't really have a lot of that. It was mainly just jokes, like I say, which are fine, but I found most of it funny, but it wasn't like laugh out loud hilarious. At least not for me.
So having had our discussion, what's your final scores?
I'm gonna say 2.5. Two is like generic Hollywood rubbish for me. I think this goes slightly beyond that because it is, again, as I said, it is quite funny actually.
Yeah, I'd be similar, probably a bit close to 3, I'd say, because although I didn't really find it that funny personally, I think that it's there are things in it that other people might find funny more, as I don't know if they have.
Personally, I'd go for 4 stars. I think it loses the 1 star because of the, like I say, I think half an hour more in Ecuador would have just completed it. Didn't have that, but it did make me laugh a lot and like all the characters in the story. So yeah, I'd go for 4 stars. And also, one thing I didn't mention, I also do just like that sort of bit of tension when you sort of think, are they going to get caught or not? Like in the first hour or so, like they go near the office and they got
It's
called
funny,
in, and
yeah.
I think that's kind of interesting. So yeah, I'd go for the 4 stars.
All right.
Right. Well, if you're interested in finding out for yourself, Special Correspondence is available on Netflix now. So, thanks for listening.